Sorry, I was having trouble with my speaker and I
Ah,
couldn't hear anybody.
oh, okay, but you're back now. That's
Yes,
great.
so
Okay,
sorry.
good. I'm going to keep monitoring the waiting room, but I think we're going to get started. I want to welcome everybody who's joined us for this third installation of our program on Judaism and race. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to get to know each other a little better. About 10 or 12 miles from here, a neighborhood called the Fifth Ward, a historic and important neighborhood in Houston, which I don't really know that much about and didn't know that much about. And we have with us three people. I'm going to mute everyone also at this time, and we'll unmute as necessary. Okay, so welcome again. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to get to know, like I said, our neighbors and a little bit about a neighborhood really close to us, the Fifth Ward. I think when we know each other and when we're familiar with each other, then we don't have to talk in generalities, and we don't have to say what other people say. We could speak from knowledge and from direct contact, and familiarity is always a good way to remove stereotypical thinking and things like that. So I thought it would be a good idea for our community to get together with some leaders who have history and who work in and work with folks from the Fifth Ward. So we have with us today, I'm just going to introduce everyone by name and then maybe ask you all to briefly introduce yourself and what your connection is to the Fifth Ward. And then we're going to get directly to questions. So I have some questions and some things I wanted to hear about. If anyone listening has any questions and things they want to hear about, feel free to put them in the chat to me, and I'll be happy to share them with our panelists. And hopefully we'll have a fruitful and informative conversation. I also want to let everyone know that tonight we're going to officially launch our second food drive, and that we'll be sending out an email to the congregation about what types of food we are looking for. And it's once again to help members of our community, which meaning our wider community, deal with the challenges that they have in terms of food insecurity, which have only been exacerbated since March and the COVID pandemic. So tonight we have with us Kendra London. Welcome, Kendra, and thank you for joining us. Elizabeth Silva is with us today, and now a veteran of three of our programs, Leah Wolfthal, who is our partner at the Center for Urban Transformation, who Rebecca Oberman and I started working with on these programs on Judaism and race. So I'd like to start just really briefly with Kendra, and then Elizabeth, and then Leah. Just talk for a minute or two about your connection to the Fifth Ward. Then we're going to come back and ask for a little introduction about the Fifth Ward, some of the things that are going on there, and like we talked about in our pre-meeting, we have specific things we'd like each person to talk about, and Leah's going to share some data with us as well. So we're going to start with you, Kendra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kendra London, and I was born and raised in Fifth Ward. And now I'm an activist for my community because of all of the issues that we're facing there. But I'm a proud kid born and raised in Fifth Ward. I'm a proud child, product of Fifth Ward.
You're muted.
We're going to come back to you very soon, Kendra. Thank you. Elizabeth, why don't you talk to us about your connections
Yes.
to the Fifth Ward?
Yes. Hi, everyone. As he said, my name's Elizabeth Silva, and I'm a case manager for the Center for Urban Transformation. I actually started working at the center, which is located in Fifth Ward, and we work with the youth in the Fifth Ward area from different schools. We are a juvenile justice diversion program. So our main goal and focus is to keep the youth from entering the justice system, because a lot of times the youth do get into trouble, and they get referred or sent to probation. And so yeah, our main goal is to help them in anything that they need, provide support and everything. So I actually work along with another case manager with about 47 to 48 families. Um, and Other than that, I'm sorry, it was just the introduction. Or
Well, that's good. That's perfect.
okay, so yeah,
We'll be
that's
back.
my role. And I actually started in March when the pandemic happened in this new role. Um, so that's just a little bit about how I am part of the Fifth Ward area. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Leah?
Yes, so thanks for having us again. So I'm Leah Wolfthal with the Center for Urban Transformation. I've been there for a year, and our mission is resiliency of Fifth Ward families. So I'm more on the strategy program partnership side. I work with Elizabeth, and then Kendra and I collaborate on various community activities. And Kendra didn't mention this, but she started a group called Our African Family around youth and education, and also a Fifth Ward activist coalition called the Circle Coalition.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And thank you for joining again. Okay, so we're going to come back to you, Kendra, and ask you to talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that exist now in the Fifth Ward: rising housing costs, on the upside, the sort of community and village mindset that you talked about, and some of the things that that you as an activist are trying to contend with when it comes to the Fifth Ward. You yourself have a compelling story in terms of your grandmother and why you unfortunately don't live in the Fifth Ward anymore. So why don't you share some of that with us, or all of that with us?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I was born and raised in Fifth Ward. Fifth Ward is a we have a village people mindset there. So it's everyone taking care of, we take care of each other as much as we possibly can. So I love my community. I love my neighbors. We have always faced issues as far as the community being a food desert. Now with the COVID-19 and the loss of, a lot of people lost jobs in Fifth Ward. So that makes the rent and the eviction issues is worse now. So just to tell you a little bit about the, I don't know, I guess the fabric of it, by me being raised in.
Kendra, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before you do that, you said that the Fifth Ward is a food desert. Could you explain to us
Okay.
what exactly that is, and what it
Okay.
technically means, and what it practically means for the people who live there?
Okay, so a food desert is a neighborhood that doesn't have a grocery store. So we don't have a grocery store in our community. We have little like mom and pop markets, stores that they hold 3 days worth of food. Sometimes, I'm lying, not sometimes, majority of the time, the food is expired. So You have to, this is a store that the community depends on, but there's not a huge selection of if you want to eat healthy or you want to eat, I don't know, a nice word, junk. So you're usually going to eat junk, but you have to, you have to do what you have to do to survive, to maintain. So we don't have the option of shopping at Sam's or HEB because of the, I guess because of the income for each household. A big food chain wouldn't want to come within our community because maybe they will struggle. So it wouldn't be, it's not, they don't see it to be good business to come into our low income community. So therefore you have the little mom and pop shops that hold 3 days worth of food. So that's what a food desert is. So when I was a little girl, we would meet my grandmother on the bus. When she gets off the bus from work, we would go to the store. We'll buy the food that day that we would eat. Every day we buy the food that we were going to eat that day. And that's how it works. Like, you cook, you eat, you survive, and you continue. So it's our norm. But it's not, it's our norm, but it's not a healthy norm, and it shouldn't be normal, but it is. So is there any
Yeah,
question?
thank you. Okay, you wanted to, you were going to move on to something else, but I thought it was important for us to hear what that really meant.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure. I would like to take any questions of, if anyone wants to ask any questions about the survival, because in all honesty, it is a food desert. The community is a poverty stricken place, but it's also a place of culture and love. So we smile while we're surviving, and our normal shouldn't be this bad, but it is. So to teach what we go through to others is actually I'm honored to do so, to educate other people about what we go through. And a lot of people will say that they're, I don't know, I hear the stereotypical things that are said, like they just on food stamps, they just want to do this, they don't want to work, they this, that, or whatever. But I'm from a family that works, like we work. Everyone in my family has been on their job since they were 18 years old. So that's the post office, UPS, the city of Houston, and the service, either the Navy, Marines, or the Army. So everyone in the community we are all, everyone in the community is different levels to the poverty zone. It's different. Everybody faces different issues. Everybody doesn't face the same issues, but at the same time, the income is never over 45,000 per household. Like Leah said, it's never over 45,000 per one household, and each household is a multi-family household, so that their annual income takes care of several people. So that's also what creates this poverty zone. So
Could you, before we move on to Elizabeth, could you talk to us about the gentrification that's happening in the Fifth Ward, and how that is affecting, families and, the legacy of the Fifth Ward?
Okay, so right now Fifth Ward is facing displacement issues, and the displacement issues we're facing it. They're hitting us two ways. So there's the I-45 expansion. That I-45 expansion is going to take 1,079 families, 344 jobs, two worship organizations, and two schools. So there will be small businesses affected, and we will lose 344 jobs within the community. And like I said, 1,079 families will be displaced. So when you do, I-45 wants to expand the freeway. In order to do so, they will remove everybody that they need to remove to get it done. East River Project, they bought a mile of East River. The Midway developer bought a mile of Fifth Ward, and they're going to create an East River Project. This project is $1 billion project. They're seeking $130 million from Fifth Ward, from our tax board. And if they're supposed to create a community benefits agreement. So the community wasn't aware of this project, of this community benefits agreement. So once our African family learned about the issues and about the community benefits agreement, we decided to educate the residents on the structure of Fifth Ward, because I had no knowledge of the structure of Fifth Ward. So out of that education came the Circle Coalition. So now it's a group of small business owners, residents, and Fifth Ward supporters that are helping the residents to become educated on the displacement, what is displacement, how it works, and the effects of not speaking up and fighting against what Midway is doing and what the I-45 text dot is doing. Text dot is over the I-45 expansion.
Thank you. Thanks, Kendra. Okay, I want to turn to Elizabeth, but before we do that, do either Leah, Kendra, Elizabeth, do any of you know what percentage of families in the Fifth Ward are food insecure? It's a question from one of our participants. Does anyone have that data?
Not off the bat, but I think we had it on our last presentation, so I can email you afterward.
Okay, and I will let the questioner ask. Okay, Elizabeth, we're gonna thank you, Kendra. We'll be back with you, of course. Please don't go anywhere. Elizabeth, thank you for joining us. Could you talk to us about the overview of what families in the Fifth Ward are dealing with? As a caseworker, you're dealing with a lot of different situations, a lot of different types of families. Can you give us sort of an overview of some of the issues that you're dealing with on a daily basis, to give us a sense of what people are contending with and how you're helping them?
Yes, of course. So as I had mentioned, I started when the pandemic hit in March. So a lot of what I'm seeing as a case manager is not just like the legal part of it, but also with COVID, a lot of families were hit and laid off from their jobs. I also work with a certain percentage of our families that are undocumented. So they rely on like under the table jobs, um, like cleaning homes or cleaning hotels, and they get paid. And so these families, when they're hit by COVID, they either lose drastic hours of work and now have to survive off of like a couple of days that they're working, or some of them don't have any hours and they were laid off. And unfortunately, these families, they don't qualify for the stimulus. And fortunately, the Fifth Ward CRC was able to help with some COVID relief. And I was very happy about that, because especially for the most vulnerable families, those that can't qualify for certain benefits because of their status. And so that's a little bit of some of the families we're working with. So a lot of them had trouble like paying rent, paying bills like water bill, electricity bill. and a lot of them had to apply for food stamps for unemployment. So we, as a case manager, we focus a lot on educating and helping them apply for those benefits. Now that it was a vital time for them to access those benefits if they're able to apply, of course. And we did do a lot of food distribution information that we're sending out during this time. And just to give you guys a story from one of our families, when we got the food distribution, we were actually, it's two case managers, so we were able to distribute. I know I had 7 and the other case manager had 7 that we were able to distribute in a little bit. We had like 2 extra boxes. But one of the families, just to give you a little example, one of the families, they had just moved into their new home, and it's in the Fifth Ward area. And they had been displaced for a while. They were living like on a 1-bedroom with a family member, and it was at least 5 or 4 of them living in one room because of the situation, that they were displaced. But thankfully, since they were able to find an affordable place to stay at during that time, we were able to help them with the food that you guys helped with, to fill their cabinets, because since they just moved in, they didn't have anything in there, and they were very thankful for everything that they received. They had a lot of, like, you guys had the canned foods, pasta, coffee, a lot of good stuff, and that came at the right time for them, because there was nothing in their cabinets. So, and a lot of people know, like, they do, some families did apply for food stamps and got food stamps, but a lot of them, when food stamps run out, they depend on, like, local churches or organizations for the extra food that they need, because all their money is pretty much going towards bills right now.
So Elizabeth,
Yeah.
thank you for painting the picture of the financial struggle. Can you, or maybe Leah or Kendra can talk to this issue? So these are families that have been working and supporting themselves with difficulty, but have been working and supporting themselves for decades, generations, and now all of a sudden they find themselves having to take handouts. Talk to us about how that affects their sense of dignity and pride, and how that plays itself out. Is that something that you see? Is there some aspect of depression or sort of despair that you see because of this, or maybe not, because the community has been there to hold them up?
I would say from experience, when you lose a job and it's a job that makes minimum wage or barely makes enough, that's depressing within itself. I mean, the pay is depressing. So you lose it, it's even worse. Now you have COVID-19 and you're now facing eviction. You're facing, I mean, you're in a food, okay, I'll give you an example. The food store that I described in the community, they closed due to COVID-19 for like a week, I believe, a week or 2, whatever, however long you have to do the quarantine, they closed. The community had to figure it out. So you have Fiesta that's maybe 2-3 miles down the street, but if everyone in the community doesn't have a car, so now you have to find the money to catch the bus to get the food, and we're doing this with $20. You're doing this with $20, so you're gonna figure out you're gonna catch the bus for $1.50, and that's one way, and then you got to come back. So then you're going to find a way. Like the only thing that I can say is that we always find a way to continue, but to continue is a struggle. So we smile while we're surviving, but there's a lot of issues that happen that has always happened, to the point where we feel like this pandemic is simply normal. This is not. Everybody screams, oh, the hell with 2020 because of COVID and all the things that's going on. But in our community, our life is 2020. And it was designed to be 2020. It was strategically planned. The COVID-19 pandemic is not the first pandemic to hit us. Crack was the first pandemic to hit us. The crack era, drug abuse was strategically put there. That chemical imbalance destroys you. It destroys you. My mother deals with this issue, so I have to watch her struggle with drug abuse. But my grandmother picked up her slack and took care of us, and all of her grandkids are working. Like, the pandemic was for me to fail. So to put crack in our community when my mother was a child, yes, the decision was hers. Yes, she could have chosen. She should have made a better decision. But when you're hit, and I'm not making excuses for her, when you're hit with so many levels of you can't, so many barriers, sometimes you give up and you choose the wrong thing. And she chose the wrong thing, so she struggles with it today. But her kids, we were blessed with a safety net as my grandmother was our safety net. So my grandmother is the grandmother that you all described when you're saying how you're working for a family, a case worker. She cleaned houses in River Oaks. She would get off the bus. We would meet her. We would go to the food store. We get food, we cook, we go home. The next day, every day you continue. It's no way, yay, it's a weekend, we work weekends too. But some families get the break and some families don't. That's why I say it's levels, it's different levels to the poverty zone. Or I say ghetto, but that's what it is. Like, it's if you don't know how to survive, you'll lose. Without programs like Leah's, which in all honesty, to meet Leah was a blessing, because like you said, we don't know our neighbors. I don't have a lot of white friends or people I trust to call a friend that doesn't look like me. That's not my fault either. It was in place for us not to get along. So when you meet someone that doesn't look like you, but has the heart and drive to assist the people that look like you, it's a blessing. So I see her as a blessing. I see you, Elizabeth, I'm just meeting you. But if you're working on side of Leah, this is genuinely hard work that's being done, and I appreciate you all for doing it. Our community is used to being in survival mode. So most of us have a defeated mindset. It's hard to change your mind. So imagine how hard Leah, Elizabeth, and myself are working to change the minds of others, to tell them you can do it. This is stopping you, but continue. Like I was trying to explain to you on the last call, the credit scores now, there's no education in credit or about credit, about economic. We don't have those type of lessons. We understand to make the money and take care of everything that is of that issue today. So if my child was to get sick, I would take my kid to the emergency room because he doesn't have a physician. Once I take them to the emergency room, I know that they won't deny me because they can't. It's against policy to do so. I'm not concerned about the $400 bill that is going to come to me because I took my child into this emergency room. I'm concerned about my child being healed, right? So later, I will receive a bill of them requesting payment for that service that I knew that I couldn't afford. But my choice was to take my child to the doctor or to keep my credit score high. Do you want to see your child cry? Or do you sacrifice your credit score? So that's the type of decisions that we face due to the pandemics that have been placed on us. And I know it may not seem, I don't know if you all believe it or not, but crack was a pandemic. COVID-19 is a pandemic. When Hurricane Harvey hits and you see the government saying there's funding for this, that, and this, but once you sign up for the funding, there's also barriers and red lines that say, no, not you, you don't get it. Not you, you don't get it. So the TV tells you there's funding and that they're helping the community. But if you have to go through it, you'll see how many of us get denied the help. And everybody looks at you as if you're just on food stamps. The education is free. Why are you not going to school? Our school education is nowhere near the same school system that everyone else has. That's also strategically planned. So if you lack education, you lack proper pay, and you lack a community to live in a place that looks like a community, a place where you can jog, a place where you can go to the park. You lack normal things.
Thanks, Kendra.
Just pull yourself up. So
Thank you. I was about to turn to Leah, but first Rebecca has I think a question or a comment, so.
I don't so much have a question. I just have to respond and say that Kendra, I am so profoundly grateful that you are here. I just feel when you are speaking that I am learning so much from you. And I had a lot of tears flowing as you're speaking because I just feel myself very open-hearted and grateful to you. I know that this kind of personal connection, us getting a chance, even if this is what counts as meeting in these days, is what we're doing. But, you know, I have felt passionate about this work, but I feel like you are putting an incredibly valuable face on this. And you are an extraordinarily articulate representative from your community. And so I just really wanted to just say that as you were speaking. It's deeply meaningful to me that you're here. Thank you.
thank you. And the fact that I look at the participants, right? So there's 20 people on this call. I'm smiling because it's 20 people on this call who want to learn from each other. So my motto for my nonprofit is each one teach one. I think we all bleed the same. So just like you're talking to me and you can feel what I'm saying, we're all human. So if we treat each other like humans,
Right.
be fine.
So I was
I
about
appreciate
to,
you.
I'm far less articulate and emotional at this point than Rebecca is, but I sent her a text message that I want you to run for office. So
I'm with them.
we'll work on that. All right, Leah. Leah's going to share with us some information about how health is affected by food insecurity. And I think she has some slides, and I made you a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, so I'll just do a couple quick slides. I also am moved by everybody who's shared, so it's a bit jarring to switch to my statistics on health and food insecurity, but we'll go for it. Okay, can you see this PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a slide from Feeding America, which is the national network of food banks. And it shows some of the links between health and food insecurity. So it shows, right, if I have less money, then I'm probably buying foods that are higher in calories, right, to try to make up for that energy gap, try to keep me going, but that are, as Kendra would say, more junk, which, as we all know, can contribute to chronic diseases that we'll talk about in another slide. Also, we'll see in another slide that if, if you have a limited budget, you have to choose between, oops, that's over here, actually, trade-offs. You have to choose between spending money on food and spending money on healthcare, preventative healthcare and other kinds of healthcare, right? And also that as we contribute to that chronic disease, right, what I'm going to have to spend over time, and also the opportunity cost of I could have been working, but now I'm taking care of these health issues that came from the fact that I was eating worse or eating less. All of that comes up. So this is another slide from Feeding America that did a survey of families that go to food banks. So these are the trade-offs, right? So families report that they had to choose some of the time between buying food and getting medical care. They had to choose between food and utilities, keeping the lights on, heat in the house. They had to choose between buying food and transportation costs, like Kendra mentioned, right? If I only have $20, am I going to spend that on the bus fare here and there? Choose between food and even housing, right? Elizabeth mentioned families crowding together in one house. So it's, if you don't have an unlimited amount of money compared to real costs, then you have to make choices. And so here are some coping strategies, right? Receiving help from friends, watering down food or drinks. You can imagine the health impact of that. Like we already spoke about, purchasing the cheaper but less healthy food, and selling property or pawning property. And this was a study on the City of Houston website. It was a survey, I believe. So Fifth Ward, people who, right, higher percentages of people who are reporting obesity in adults, as well as higher weights for children, unhealthy weights for children, and then related resulting health conditions, so cardiovascular diseases, as well as high blood pressure diagnoses. And then this impacts life expectancy. So this is from the Episcopal Health Foundation. So this is showing the Greater Houston, and Fifth Ward is over here, and I'll show you a close-up in a second. So the darker purple means lower life expectancy, and then the greens are higher, right? So if you think, where do I live? Somewhere over here, right? Compared to, and what's that life expectancy, right? Maybe low 80s, high 70s, compared to over here. This is Fifth Ward-ish, these areas, like 60s, low 70s. It's a serious difference compared to like these areas, right? At 10 or 20, 30-year life difference, just based on environmental factors, right? This is just about zip code, that we can make the link, are not disconnected from these issues we're talking about health conditions relating to food. So that is my snapshot about food insecurity and health.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to go back and ask, I think Elizabeth, you were able to talk to, I think we spoke last time about specifically related to COVID and testing and the challenge of getting tested in the Fifth Ward. Was that something you were able to speak to?
No, that was Kendra.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kendra, do you, so you could, well, I'll give you a choice. You could talk about that, or Leah mentioned two organizations that you founded. Do you want to tell us about them? Just to unmute yourself.
Yes, I will tell you about those two, but the COVID-19 testing sites are important because the testing site was on Tidwell. that they have for the north side, but we're in 5th Ward. So this is a place that lacks transportation. We depend on Metro Transit. So if you put the testing sites on Homestead and there's elders here, how will the elders get tested? They don't catch Ubers to, it was sick, it was sad. But the nonprofit organization that I founded is called Our African Family. So as a little girl, we would get things like field trips and mentors that would come and speak to us. Motivational speakers would come to the schools and speak. So when I saw that we lacked motivational speakers and we lacked field trips and recess, that like the education system is really different. So when I saw, I believe if you can identify a problem, you're smart enough to find the solution. So the problem was that the children lack mentors. So we began to do educational programs in the park and around in churches or wherever, any building that would allow us to come in. We would invite the community in to learn about African culture, to learn about the issues that are impacting our community, to teach the youth to speak up and have a voice. And by doing so, I found Leah, or Leah found me, and we began to work together closely in the community for the youth and for the kids. Then I found out about the community benefits agreement. So I founded the Circle Coalition. So with that, you get to speak up. You get to have a voice in the place that you have been in forever, the place that you're being pushed out of. Your voice matters. So the Circle Coalition information is on the website, and the website is www.ourafricanfamily.org. And I use the K because my mama named all her kids, all our names start with a K, so everything I do, I put a K. So Our African Family that website has the information about the displacement that's going on with the community. The TERS board, there's a the TERS board is, I have to catch myself because if I'm so honest, this might be painful. Okay, so the TERS board makes the decisions for 5th Ward, and they have been doing negotiations in the background without our knowledge. When we found out, I began to light fire under people to make them speak up. So I love to make people, everybody has a purpose and everybody's valuable. So that's what the Circle Coalition does. It gives you a voice.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank you, Elizabeth and Kendra and Leah, for being our panel tonight. We don't have a specific time we're supposed to end, but I don't want to go much past an hour. We're just about 46 minutes now. Are there any questions from our participants? You could put them in the chat or just sort of wave and let me know if you have any questions, or use the raise hand function. Okay, so Sari wants to know, well, I could answer part of Sari's question, but then we'll open it up. Sari wants to know how we can help. So Sari, I think you may have missed this. We are going to be doing another food collection program, and we'll send out an email about that to the congregation. Actually, I also, Leah, I want to share those slides as part of the email. So if you could send those to me, because I think that'll give people a real understanding of what's happening here. So besides food, Sari wants to know what can people do?
Well, currently, if there's anyone that would like to volunteer to do any type of COVID-19 volunteering, you can reach out to do that. If anybody has Has anybody on this call ever worked on a CBA before? That would be of help.
On a what?
Community benefits agreement. So that's where I believe.
You need a lawyer?
No, no, I don't.
Meaning if you need a lawyer to help, that's something we could potentially help with.
Well, I believe that the displacement is going to take place within this community benefits agreement, because once we asked the TERS board about the draft to let us see what they were asking for on the behalf of our community, they stated that we couldn't see it due to competitors issues or whatever, right? But we asked if affordable housing was on that in that draft, and they said no. So this is what we see. So this is how it's going to be a generational problem. If they do not advocate for affordable housing, let's say my grandmother passes, right, and she decides to leave the home to me. My grandmother is exempt right now, right? So she's fine. If she decides to leave that home to me, and this TERS board doesn't put affordable housing within that community benefits agreement, I will be responsible for the tax fees. They will now apply to me because of my age. The cost of living in Fifth Ward has already skyrocketed. Like, I'm not living in Fifth Ward right now because I can't find a spot that is where I would raise my kid and be okay with raising him there. So it's already too high to rent. You now have $200,000 properties and lots in Fifth Ward, when this is what they're going to do also. If your house is in the way, they're going to give you market value. So they'll send an appraiser out there, right? If they send I'm sorry, that's my baby. If they send an appraiser to get an appraisal on that house, it's going to be a $40,000 appraisal, right? Shaheed. It's going to be a $40,000 appraisal, and you can't even use that to purchase a new house. I'm going to see that. You can't even do that. Who is that?
Hello.
Leah. Say hey, Leah.
Hey, Leah.
Okay, so you can't purchase another home for $40,000. So this is how you rob us. So they'll give you market value for the home, then they'll sell the land for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you see, it just becomes a domino effect of burdens that happens when people don't speak up.
So maybe we can brainstorm of some possible additional ways to get involved that each of our different organizations could benefit from, depending on your level of, quarantining, go block walk with Kendra, depending on your level of comfort. Maybe we can get with you after and include that as part of the email.
I think that would be great.
Cool, thank you. So,
I think a real estate attorney sounds like a good fit.
The who?
Like a real estate
attorney?
Yeah.
Yes, because that's how they're going to rob us. Like, they're already robbing us. Okay, so the TERS 18 knew that this was coming. This is not new to them, it's new to the community. So they have already purchased so much property there. When this development happens, they're gonna instantly become millionaires. But you're taking away the culture of the community. Not all of the homes are going straight up. There's no roof. We grew up in homes. I grew up where I can say I could go. Last night I was at a party. It was my mother's friend's party. But I was there and I felt like I was at home because her friends became my aunt. Our children should have the same thing, that same culture should be there. My oldest boy, I had a kid at 16, and my oldest boy, he's everybody's nephew. My 5-year-old, not so much, because we're not there like I was with the oldest kid. But there's a culture there, and the displacement will take away the culture. So that's what I advocate for, the culture and the misunderstandings of people who you think because we're in a poverty zone, we're such lower class people. And a class is simply a barrier. Like money is a barrier, and it's a wall that you put up, and it makes you miss out on meeting great people and knowing new people. So it's silliness. But anyway, I also do character development. So, but I like.
We're gonna get together and talk about
Stop, Shaheed.
some other ways to offer our community members to help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other? Okay.
Ms. Brookman? Brookman?
Yeah. You're still muted. Go ahead, Judy.
Tomorrow's a very important day. How's voting done in your community? Is your community Sheila Jackson Lee's community? And did they put polling booths or polling stations in your area so people can walk and do a vote?
Okay, yes, it is Sheila Jackson Lee's area. I mean, she's there often. And yes, the voting polls are very convenient. So there's, and I'm sure, I'm sure everybody's gonna do Democrat. Like they're gonna just go, shh. Yep, so the voting polls are there. Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
That wasn't an issue. Unless I may be wrong, unless Elizabeth or Leah knows, but I don't think, it's never really been an issue.
Yeah, also, I did see some vans that were offering rides there in the Fifth Ward area. And I thought that was awesome because I know that the Metro was offering free rides as well, but it's just, more of a convenience and ability to go and make a less distance trip through the van than going like an hour in the Metro. But yeah, I found that was awesome.
Who was providing the van service to polling stations?
Actually, hold on. I saw, I took a picture of the van so I could send it to our families. Give me, okay, here it is. It's NACA, Fighting for Economic Injustice with America's Best something, but it says NACA.com. And it just had like free rides to the polls, and it has a phone number. And I think they dispatch the van drivers as they call.
Yeah, NACA is
Yeah.
is a Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, nonprofit community advocacy and homeownership organization, and now they're doing a get out the vote thing. So
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
great. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. We're going to roll out the next day or two the food collection and maybe some other opportunities to help. So we'll get together to chat about that and figure that out. And I think we're going to do the same collection spot, right, Rebecca? Same collection spot. Okay. And Rebecca promises that if she eats any of the collected items, she'll replace it with equal or better items.
Just don't send Reese's peanut butter cups and we're all set.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Leah and Elizabeth and Kendra. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rebecca, for continuing to be the UOS contact here. And I hope we'll have a successful collection, and our communities will continue to get to know each other and learn from each other and speak to each other and become more familiar with each other, and hopefully one day actually even meet in person, like in 3D, which would be really delightful. But until then, we're going to have to do it this way. All right. Thanks again, everybody, and have a wonderful,
you
wonderful
all.
evening.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys. We
Bye.
appreciate all the
Have a good
help.
night.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.